There must never be a narrowly voted impeachment or an impeachment substantially supported by one of our major political parties and largely opposed by the other. Such an impeachment would lack legitimacy, would produce divisiveness and bitterness in our politics for years to come, and will call into question the very legitimacy of our political institution.
A real trial, we know, has witnesses. We urge you to do your duty. Permit a fair trial. All the witnesses must be permitted. That's elementary in American justice. Either you want the truth, or you must permit the witnesses, or you want a shameful cover-up. History will judge, and so will the electorate. The articles are overwhelmingly supported by the evidence amassed by the House. Despite the fact that we didn't hear from many witnesses we should have heard from, we heard from enough witnesses to prove the case beyond any doubt at all.
George Washington's farewell address warns of a moment when cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled men will be enabled to subvert the power of the people and to usurp for themselves the reins of government.
We have a unanimous consent request.
Too late. The witnesses are additional materials for the record.
Consent request?
Without objection, the hearing is adjourned.
Yeah, that's
Give me a break.
just typical, isn't it? Just typical.
The gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, pursuant to Clause 2 of Rule 11, I move to require the attendance and testimony of Chairman Schiff before this committee and transmit this letter accordingly.
For what purpose does the gentlelady seek recognition?
I move to table the motion.
Motion to table is made and not debatable. All in favor of the motion to table say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
The motion to table is agreed to.
Recorded vote.
The recorded vote is requested. The clerk will call the roll.
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Chairman.
The clerk will call the roll.
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Chairman.
You're not recognized for parliamentary inquiry at this time. There's a vote in process.
Just a reminder, any no votes that you don't want Chairman Schiff coming, correct?
The
Chairman was furnished with the demand signed by all Republican members of the committee during the impeachment hearing held on December the 4th. The chairman has refused to respond to multiple additional requests that hearing be scheduled, and at one point actually telling me, as I actually responded to this, that we'll rule with it today.
The minority has asked for a day of hearings on the matter of the December 4th hearing, which was the constitutional grounds for impeachment. I am willing to work with the minority to schedule such a hearing, but not before today's markup of the articles of impeachment. The House rule does not require me to schedule a hearing on a particular day, nor does it require me to schedule the hearing as a condition precedent to taking any specific legislative action. State his point of order.
Mr. Chairman, Clause 2J1 of Rule 11 requires you to schedule a minority hearing day, not to consider it, not to meet to discuss it, but to schedule one, and to schedule it at a reasonable time, not after articles have been drawn, not after there's been a vote on articles of impeachment. I inquire and insist, Mr. Chairman, that you immediately schedule a minority hearing day or tell us why you are ignoring the rules.
If you think we would be violating the rules of the House if we considered articles of impeachment before holding a minority day hearing, that point of order would be timely at a meeting where we considered such articles.
It's telling me that you're considering something you have nothing to consider, and you have told me that, I'll admit on record, is nowhere close to actually following your duty as a chairman to follow the rules. And so I think the point of order is very well taken. I think the issue that we have is not, I think your timing is, I mean, show me please in the rule, have your parliamentarian show me in the rules where you come to a time of actually being able to deny this up at a certain point.
As I have said, the point of order would be in order at the meeting where we are considering articles.
Further reserving the right to object.
We will now hear presentations.
Chairman, I appeal the decision of the chair.
There's no decision to appeal. There was not a ruling and a motion. We will now hear presentations.
Ruling on the point of order.
You made a ruling on the point of order.
You made a ruling on the point of order, Mr. Chairman. You can't then not allow us to appeal the ruling of the chair.
The gentleman will suspend. It was not a cognizable point of order. It was not a cognizable point of order. It was not in order at this time to make that point of order. There is no ruling to appeal.
But Mr. Chairman, its rule was the obligation, not consideration. You are obligated to schedule, not to consider. You made a ruling. It is in order to appeal.
The gentleman will suspend. We are doing what we have to do under the rules. We will now hear presentations of evidence.
Mr. Chairman,
the gentleman is not recognized. We will now hear presentations of evidence.
I have a parliamentary inquiry.
I haven't removed my objection yet.
I will not recognize a parliamentary inquiry at this time. We will now hear presentations of evidence from counsels to the judiciary.
Is this when we just hear staff ask questions of other staff and the members get dealt out of this whole hearing? And for the next 4 hours, you're going to try to overturn the result of an election with unelected people giving testimony?
Gentlemen will suspend.
We got memorandums of understanding between the chairman. We got Michael Cohen testifying for 7 hours, getting advice from the witness here on obstructing the committee work and not sharing the information with us in a timely fashion. And now we got John Dean, 45 years ago, pled guilty to obstruction of justice, and now coming in to enlighten the Judiciary Committee on Obstruction of Justice when we could be going right to the start of how this whole thing started. I yield back.
Since the gentleman from Ohio cast aspersions on the witness, I would remind everyone that after Mr.
No, I didn't, Mr. Chairman. I read his statements. I did not cast aspersions. I read his statements.
But they refuse to allow the evidence and hear from the witnesses. They will not permit the American people to hear from the witnesses. And they lie, and lie, and lie, and lie. Sometimes relies on a theory of absolute immunity that says that he can order anybody in the executive branch not to testify to the House or the Senate or to a court. Now, obviously, this is ridiculous. It's been flatly rejected by every federal court to consider the idea. It's embarrassing the president's counsels would talk about this today.
The only one who should be embarrassed, Mr. Nadler, is you for the way you've addressed this body.
Mr. Chairman, pursuant to Clause 2 of Rule 11, I move to require the attendance and testimony of Chairman Schiff before this committee and transmit this letter accordingly.
For what purpose does the gentlelady seek recognition?
I move to table the motion.
Motion to table is made and not debatable. All in favor of the motion to table say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
The motion to table is agreed to.
In fact, a peaceful procedure for protecting the nation from despots by providing a constitutional means for removing a president who would misuse his presidential power to make himself a tyrant or otherwise to undermine our constitutional form of government. To impeach a president, it must be that serious. There must never be a narrowly voted impeachment or an impeachment substantially supported by one of our major political parties and largely opposed by the other. Such an impeachment would lack legitimacy, would produce divisiveness and bitterness in our politics for years to come, and will call into question the very legitimacy of our political institution.
Because no one is above the law,